OMG, ladies and gentlemen, we finally have some legit college football drama. It happened last night when Nick Saban said that Texas A&M basically bought every single player in the 2022 recruiting class. Of course, we know Texas A&M finished number 1 overall. They had the highest recruiting class in history in 2022, mainly due to the way they weaponized NIL. And I want people to understand this because I feel like most casual fans are very ignorant on the way NIL is being used when it comes to these different college football teams, because I've seen a lot of people in response to what Saban said. I've seen a lot of people say Saban's a hypocrite. This is exactly what Alabama's doing. They're all using NIL. They're all buying players. I'm going to be 100% honest with you guys. That's not what's happening, because if Alabama was spending the way Texas A&M was spent in 2022, I can promise you Alabama would have had a better recruiting class than Texas A&M. If Ohio State was spending like Texas A&M did in 2022, I can promise you Ohio State would have had a better recruiting class than Texas A&M. And guys, it's also important to understand what Texas A&M was doing in 2022 was illegal. They weren't the only ones. Texas was doing some things. Take a look at 2023 with Tennessee, and then programs like Miami and Florida. I expect them to be huge in the NIL market, but NIL was never intended to use these collectives to get a 5-star recruit to commit to your school. The idea is NIL is on campus, meaning the kids make recruiting decisions based off of what the best school is for them in terms of their development, not in terms of which NIL collective is going to pay me the most money to go to a certain school. The best example of this is a recruit, a defensive line recruit that actually reclassified. He was the number 3 overall player in 2023, LT Overton. He reclassified to 2022, and he was a 5-star, ranked 18th overall when he reclassified to 2022. He signed on with Texas A&M even after they signed the greatest defensive line recruiting class in history. I think at the time they had 3 5-star defensive linemen, and LT Overton reclassified to 2022 and then signed on with that. Okay, if you think he's making a decision that's best for him, signing on to a recruiting class that already has 3 5-star defensive linemen, they already had 5 total top 100 players just alone on the defensive line, there's clearly money involved, and the issue is fans don't understand what Texas A&M is doing by using and weaponizing NIL, weaponizing the boosters. It is illegal. And let's get to this quote by Nick Saban. He says, we were second in recruiting last year. A&M was first. A&M bought every player on their team, including the 3-stars. It's not like A&M just had 5 stars. I mean, they had 3 stars. I don't know if they bought 3 stars. Maybe they did. I don't know. Made a deal for NIL. We didn't buy 1 player. All right, but I don't know if we're going to be able to sustain that in the future because more and more people are doing it. It's tough. So yeah, when he's referencing more and more people, Florida is really getting into the NIL game. They're really in on the 2023 number 1 ranked cornerback. Right now, they're offering him NIL. Miami is another team that's got a crazy collective. They paid a transfer basketball player $400,000. I expect them to be very active when it comes to their NIL in terms of college football for the 2023 recruiting class. So more program. Tennessee is another one. They paid a kid $8 million in a multi-year contract. One of the top quarterbacks in 2023. More programs are starting to do it. It's completely off the rails. And Saban says they didn't buy 1 player. When it comes to recruiting, I've said this before. You've got 2 different structures. You've got 2 different ways programs are approaching the NIL and the way it will affect your team. You've got the Ohio State, Clemson, Alabama model, where those schools will refuse to pay for high school recruits. Now with the transfer portal, it's different. Alabama gave Eli Ricks, the number one ranked cornerback transfer 5-star from LSU, they gave him $1 million. But when it comes to high school recruits, some of these programs like a Clemson, like an Ohio State, like an Alabama, they think if they give high school kids money just to commit to their school, like Texas A&M is doing, like Tennessee is doing, to where they have their boosters already set up an NIL deal, and they say, listen, if you come to this school, you will have this NIL deal the second you step on campus. Meaning the kids are going to commit to the school based off of the money, not based off of relationships, not based off of potential development. That's what Tennessee is doing. That's what Texas A&M is doing. Alabama, people make these statements like, oh, Alabama, of course they're paying players. It's like, what do you mean by that? Like, yes, they paid Eli Ricks, but they're not paying recruits to specifically come to their school. Of course, Bryce Young is going to have an NIL deal with companies in Tuscaloosa. Of course, CJ Stroud is going to have an NIL deal with companies in Columbus, Ohio. Those players committed to those schools and have played at an extremely high level, and that's how NIL should work. You play at a high level, you market yourself, it's a capitalist society, you should make money off of it. The problem that Nick Saban and some of these ADs at schools have, it's gone so off the rails to where these programs are blatantly cheating, and the programs know that NCAA won't do anything about it. So they're just going to continue to cheat. That's why the NCAA put out that statement earlier this month saying we're going to police this better. The ADs that weren't cheating, like Ohio State, like Alabama, and you say, well, everyone's paying. It's like, what do you mean by everyone is? Some schools are going so ridiculous, you can't just say everyone is paying players. No. That's what Texas A&M fans do. Texas A&M says everyone does it, everyone's doing it, right? No, it's not even. It's like you're paying kids, this much. Other schools are here. Alabama, Ohio State, Clemson don't even pay recruits to commit. They tell their boosters, no, that's not how we're going to recruit. That's not what it's for. And because they think it's going to be a bad culture thing for their locker room if you've got a 5-star recruit coming in already with like a $3 million NIL deal just because he committed to your school. They think it's a bad culture locker room thing. And Saban says that Alabama players made $3 million doing it the right way. And they were able to leverage their NIL opportunities. So what Saban is saying there is, you come to Alabama, you play well, you win a frickin' Heisman like Bryce Young, yeah, you're going to make some money through NIL, but we will not pay for a 5-star high school 16-year-old recruit to commit to our school. That's what Nick Saban is saying. And, we've got this situation here. Saban also called out Jackson State and Deion Sanders, saying that Travis Hunter, the number one overall recruit in the 2021 class, the 2022 class, got $1 million deal to go to Jackson State. He's actually wrong. It was a $3 million deal. And then Deion Sanders says in a tweet, "You best believe I will address that lie Coach Saban told tomorrow. I was and awakened," I don't know if that makes sense, "by my son that sent me the article stating we paid Travis Hunter $1 million to play at Jackson State. We as a people don't have to pay our people to play with our people." Deion, stop lying. Okay, so technically Deion Sanders, I guess you could say, is not lying because Jackson State boosters did not pay Travis Hunter $3 million. Deion Sanders did not pay Travis Hunter $3 million. Travis Hunter got a $3 million barstool deal, NIL deal, to go to Jackson State. So technically, he's really lying, but I guess you could say, well, he didn't pay, the boosters didn't pay, but it was a $3 million deal that helped the number one overall recruit go to Jackson State. So that's that's just disingenuous. It really is, guys. I feel like the main issue with NIL is fans just don't understand. This is not a situation that is happening at every single program. I hear so much, it's like everyone is paying players. And it's like, what do you mean by that? Programs have a different way they go about conducting their NIL business. And, an Alabama's model is going to be completely different from Texas A&M's model. And Nick Saban is frustrated. He's pissed. Guys, I am not a Nick Saban fan. I am not an Alabama fan. I'm a college football fan, and I'm just telling you, this is what's happening. Okay, you have to understand, Texas A&M completely weaponized recruiting more than anyone in 2022. And just like Saban's quote says, in 2023, it's not just going to be Texas A&M. It's going to be Miami. It's going to be Florida. It's going to be all these schools who Texas, maybe, you can't recruit against an Ohio State, against an Alabama without NIL. But now, since Ohio State and Alabama aren't offering kids money straight up to come to their school, now maybe you get a little bit of a leg up. It's like, we might not have the development Ohio State has, but can they offer you $2 million right now? Can Alabama offer you $1 million? And again, guys, Alabama paid Eli Ricks $1 million, but that's a transfer portal kid. That is not a high school recruit who's 17 years old, and you're like, I'll give you $1 million to pick the school. So it is a very complicated situation. Texas A&M totally cheated in 2022. It's great that Nick Saban is coming out. He's pissed. Obviously, he's going to be pissed. They face Texas A&M in the SEC, and they're going to be facing all of those 5 stars. And what I would suggest is we straight up bowl ban Texas A&M a minimum of 5 years, set an example. Of course, at that point, it's like, what happens to all their 5-star recruits? Do they enter the transfer portal? It gets pretty rough. But I would love to see a bowl ban on Texas A&M. I really think if you just went out and you bowl banned Texas A&M, the NIL issue would be solved, because a lot of these boosters would get real scared. I'm talking about boosters not just from Texas A&M, because obviously they'd be pissed, but like Miami, Florida, all these other boosters would be like, we don't want to get bowl banned. Let's not mess around with this. We're going to use the NIL as an on-campus thing, and when you bring a 5-star recruit in to visit you, you say, listen, you want to be like CJ Stroud. You want to be like Bryce Young. You come here. We have the infrastructure to give you NIL deals, but you're not allowed to bring in a 5-star recruit on for a campus visit, have him talk to your boosters, and the boosters say, listen, if you come here, you have $4 million waiting for you in an NIL deal. That is not allowed. But that's what was happening at Texas A&M. That's why you're seeing the number 3 overall recruit from the 2023 class reclassify to 2022 and sign on with 3 other 5-star defensive linemen. It makes no sense other than you're getting paid a ridiculous amount of money, which is exactly what happened to LT Overton. So it is a crazy situation, and I just wanted to touch on that, Nick Saban coming out, he's angry. And then people say, oh, they pay their players. And it's like, you just don't know the situation. You really don't know the complicated situation that the NIL is. And it's sad because so many of these fans are so in the dark. And I'm trying to tell people, it's a very different situation. Different schools handle their NIL process differently. We've also got Ohio State extending Ryan Day's contract through 2028 for $9.5 million annually. I believe Mel Tucker is going to be making more than Ryan Day even after this raise, which is pretty funny. But if you're an Ohio State fan, what's going to happen with Ryan Day is when Ohio State wins their first national title, that will tell us if Ryan Day wants to create a legacy in college football or if he just wants a national title and then he goes to the NFL. I think Ryan Day and Lincoln Riley are very similar in, when Lincoln Riley is able, if and when Lincoln Riley is able to build up USC and win a national title, will he go to the NFL? These are offensive QB gurus that the NFL loves. With Ryan Day, he can be signed on till 2040. It doesn't matter. He can still go to the NFL any year. We've seen these coaches that, the contracts, this was just to get Ryan Day a legitimate raise because he was, getting paid nothing. And, I'm glad Ohio State did this. But in terms of Does Ryan Day want to actually have a college legacy and go down as one of the greatest college football coaches of all time? We will likely know the answer to that after Ryan Day wins his first national title. Because right now he's chasing that national title. And when he wins that national title, will he say, listen, you know, I've won my title. I want to go to the NFL. College football is always here. I can always come back and coach. Or will he say, I want to be the next Saban. I want to create a dynasty at Ohio State. I want to use this national title win as a way to booster my recruiting. It's a little bit of a different situation with guys like Ryan Day and Lincoln Riley from someone like Kirby Smart, because Kirby Smart is not really wanted in NFL circles. They don't like that type of coach. They want the offensive guru in the year 2022. They want the QB guru. They want their head coach to have a specific relationship with the quarterback. That's why guys like Ryan Day and Lincoln Riley appeal to NFL GMs so much. So, you know, Ryan Day signing through 2028, it's whatever. You know, these coaches, Ryan Day could go to the NFL next year if he wanted. These contracts, the length, they don't mean much. But Ryan Day did get a pay raise. He still is getting paid less than Mel Tucker. That is funny. But he's also getting paid less than Nick Saban, Lincoln Riley, Brian Kelly. Oh my God. Brian Kelly and that's a disaster, guys. Brian Kelly, I don't think Brian Kelly lasts 3 years at LSU. It's just a horrible culture fit. Horrible culture fit. But he does get around $9 million. But guys, that is going to do it for this video. Make sure you're following me on Twitter. Link to that's always in the description. I'm, of course, the Depressed Ginger. Thank you for watching.